Hello students. Today we are going to discuss on the chapter Human Digestive System. We have discussed nutrition earlier, and based on those concepts of nutrition we are going to discuss about digestion taking place in a human body. Now, for each and every life process, there is a distinct organ system present in the human body. For respiration, there is respiratory system. For excretion, there is excretory system. Similarly, for digestion, there is digestive system. So, we are going to start the discussion about human digestive system. As you can see on my screen over here, you can see that I have first written about the different modes of nutrition that are possible in a living organism. So, if you follow the screen carefully, you will find that the different modes of nutrition that are possible. One is autotrophic, and the other one is heterotrophic. Autotrophic and heterotrophic. Now, autotrophic nutrition, it deals with those organisms who can prepare their own food, who can synthesize their own organic food. Such a nutrition is called autotrophic nutrition. Auto means self. Nutrition means we have already come across the term. Nutrition means the process of obtaining and utilizing nutrients. So those organisms who can prepare their own organic food, they are called autotrophs. How will they prepare? By the process of photosynthesis. So who are the photosynthetic organisms on this planet? Definitely the green plants, and some photosynthetic bacteria are there. Bacteria, they can also be photosynthetic if they have chlorophyll. So these organisms are autotrophic organisms. Now coming to the heterotrophs. Now, heterotrophic organism, they are dependent on the autotrophs for their nutrition. They derive their nutrition from autotrophs. They cannot prepare their own organic food. So, heterotrophic nutrition can be of three types. As you can see, I have written holozoic, saprotrophic, and parasitic. Holozoic, saprotrophic, and parasitic. Holozoic nutrition means it refers to that kind of nutrition where organisms, they feed on solid food material, solid organic food, like us human beings. We consume solid food like some other mammal, tiger, lion, cat, dog. We consume solid food, and so we are holozoic. The word holo means complete, whole. So we consume the solid food particle, we put it inside our mouth, we consume the whole of it. That is why holozoic. Another kind of nutrition can be saprotrophic. Saprotrophic means those organisms which will feed on the dead or the decaying parts of an organism. How do they do that? They release enzymes on the dead and decaying organic part. Those enzymes make the organic part soluble and absorbable, so that the saprotrophs, they can take in that nutrition. And the third type is parasitic. So parasitic nutrition refers to those organisms which they are also dependent on others for nutrition, but the difference is the host in case of parasitic nutrition is living. So in case of saprotrophic nutrition, the host is dead. In case of parasitic nutrition, the host is living. That is the difference. Now, so this is about the initial concept of digestive, the nutrition. Now, coming to the process by which nutrition takes place. Now, in order to understand the process of nutrition taking place in human body, we should first understand the anatomy of human digestive system. What is anatomy? Anatomy means study of internal structure of an organism. Internal structure. Morphology means study about external features, height, weight, color, shape. These are all categorized under morphology. Anatomy means details about the internal structure. So first we should know the anatomy of human digestive system. So we can refer to certain pictures regarding human digestive system. So this is the picture of human digestive system, as you can see. Now, the human digestive system, it starts with the buccal cavity. What is buccal cavity? Buccal cavity means mouth. This is the mouth. If I open my mouth, there is a cavity inside. Cavity means space. If I open my mouth, there is a space inside. And this space, it is enclosed by lips. This is my upper lip. This is my lower lip. So if I open this lip, these two lips, the space is buccal cavity. Now what do we find in buccal cavity? What are the structures present in buccal cavity? First of all, the tongue. We have a muscular tongue. You have already learnt about the tissue system in organisms. And there you have learnt that the tongue is a muscular organ. Can we move the tongue on our own? Willfully, can we move the tongue? Yes, we can. So that means tongue is made up of striated muscles or voluntary muscles. What is the function of tongue? Tongue manipulates the food. When I put the food inside, from one part of the buccal cavity to the other, the tongue rolls the food. So that is called manipulation of the food. It takes place within buccal cavity with the help of tongue. What else does the tongue do? Without the tongue, we would not have been able to speak properly. So tongue helps in speech, and definitely it helps us to taste. Whatever we are eating, whatever we are consuming, it helps us to feel the taste of the food. Why? Because tongue is a sense organ. It has got nerve endings which help us to feel the taste of the food. Okay, so tongue. What else is there? We have salivary glands in the buccal cavity. Salivary glands which secrete saliva. What is the function of saliva? Saliva is a watery secretion. Maximum part of saliva is nothing but water. If we go to learn about the composition of saliva, we will be able to understand that it is 99% of saliva is water. and some amount of salt is there, some enzymes are there. One of the chief enzymes, as we will learn about the process of digestion, one of the chief enzymes is salivary amylase or ptyalin, which helps us to digest starch kind of food. So basically, saliva is a watery secretion. It's a digestive juice because it has got enzyme which helps in starch digestion. And what else saliva does? Saliva has got antiseptic property. It has lysozymes. Whatever we eat, the food that we take in, everything is germ free. Do we have that guarantee? No. Some kind of bacteria, some pathogens are present in the food which we are consuming. The lysozymes of saliva, they kill those pathogens, and to some extent they kill the pathogens. They kill the bacteria so that it can be brought down or it can be pushed down into the digestive tract. So this is another function of saliva. So first is it has got digestive enzymes. Second is it is a germ killing secretion. These are the two most important functions of saliva. Saliva is slightly acidic, very slightly acidic. pH is about 6.8. So very slightly acidic, because until and unless it has an acidic environment, it will not be able to kill the harmful microorganisms. So that is why pH of saliva is acidic. One more thing, we consume solid substances, solid, hard food substances which need to be crushed. Until and unless we crush them, we will not be able to swallow. So what does saliva do? Saliva moistens the food that we take in, helps the food to become moist, and then converts the food into a semi-solid mass. And that semi-solid mass is called bolus. It is called bolus because until and unless the semi-solid mass bolus is formed, we will not be able to swallow the food. So these are the main functions of saliva. Where from saliva will be secreted? It will be secreted from 3 glands. There are 3 pairs of salivary glands in our body. One is, as you can see in the picture, one is submaxillary. See, it's written submaxillary. What does this mean? Sub means below. Below what? Below maxilla. What is maxilla? Upper jaw. Upper jaw. So upper jaw maxilla, below maxilla there is salivary gland. So the name is submaxillary. Sublingual. Sub means below. Lingual. Lingual means tongue. So below the tongue, at the base of the tongue, there is another salivary gland. And then there is a third one which is not shown in the diagram, but the name is parotid gland, which we have below the ears over here. Over here, parotid glands. So there are 3 pairs of salivary glands: submaxillary, sublingual, and parotid glands. These 3 glands, they secrete saliva where? Into the buccal cavity. Okay. Now, so this is all about the buccal cavity. Now, the buccal cavity, it leads to a space called pharynx. As you can see, pharynx. What is pharynx? Pharynx is a muscular structure and it is a common passage for both food and air, which means when we are inhaling, the oxygen is going into the nose, nasal chamber, and then to the pharynx. When we are eating, we are putting the food inside mouth. The food is going down to pharynx. So which means pharynx is a common area where both food and oxygen or air enters. That is a common space. Now from pharynx, what happens? The pathway divides. Two pathways are formed. One pathway is meant for passing the food, and the other pathway is meant for passage of air, respiratory gases. So the two pathways are separated. Now, the passage through which the food goes down, that passage is called esophagus. We would not call it food pipe. Food pipe is a very generalized term. We would rather call it esophagus. So this is a muscular tube, esophagus. So esophagus, it starts from pharynx and it goes up to, extends up to the stomach. Okay. Now, if we go into the process of nutrition, then I must show you this. The first step is ingestion, as you can see. The first step is ingestion. Ingestion. What is ingestion? Ingestion means consuming the food. So see, I have written intaking of food. Ingestion means food intake. So I am putting the food inside buccal cavity. Now when I am putting the food inside buccal cavity, what will happen in the buccal cavity? Inside buccal cavity we have teeth. Teeth, we have details about the arrangement of teeth, structure of tooth we will discuss. But first let us get a gross idea. What are the steps? So with the help of teeth we chew the food. We chew the food. And this chewing of food with the help of teeth is called mastication. What is it called? Mastication. So we are putting the food inside buccal cavity and then we are masticating the food. The tongue is rolling the food. Food is getting mixed up with saliva and is converted into a semi-solid mass, which is called bolus. Now this bolus, it has to go down. So from buccal cavity, it will first go to pharynx. As we were referring to this diagram, it will go to pharynx. From pharynx, it will go down through the esophagus. How will it go down? Now in the esophagus, there are muscles, involuntary muscles, smooth muscles, which alternately contract and relax. And this alternate contraction, relaxation, it creates a pressure on the food. And due to the pressure, the food goes down. So this movement of food through the esophagus, due to muscular movements, muscular contractions, relaxations, this phenomenon is called peristalsis. Peristalsis. So now where will the food go? The food will go over here. From esophagus, it will go into stomach. Now stomach, the upper part of stomach is called the cardiac stomach. Why cardiac? Because upper part means it is closer to heart. Anything related to heart is called cardiac. So the upper part of the stomach is cardiac stomach. And the lower part of the stomach is pyloric stomach. So food from esophagus, it will come down into the stomach. The lining of stomach is made up of epithelial cells, columnar epithelial cells. They can secrete digestive juices, and the wall of the stomach is made up of muscles. So when the food gets into the stomach, there also what happens? Muscular contractions take place, so that the food can get mixed up with the juices of the stomach, digestive juices of the stomach. So peristalsis not only takes place in esophagus, it takes place in the stomach also. Now within stomach, partial digestion takes place. That means whatever we are eating, the entire thing is not digested. A part of it is digested. Which part? Protein type of food. When we are eating something, if we are consuming proteins, protein digestion takes place mainly in stomach. But carbohydrate and lipids, that means fat digestion, doesn't take place. So half digestion takes place. Now from stomach, the food enters this U-shaped part, which is duodenum. Now duodenum is the first part of small intestine. Small intestine has got three main parts. So the first part is this U-shaped duodenum. So food from stomach enters duodenum. Now duodenum itself does not have any power to secrete enzymes. There are no cells in duodenum which secrete enzymes. Rather, it receives digestive juices. Where from? From the liver and from the pancreas. So liver and pancreas, they pour their secretion into the duodenum. Okay? From duodenum, the food then enters this coiled part of small intestine, which is jejunum, and then ileum. Now in ileum, when the food comes down to ileum, the rest part of the digestion is completed. Ileum can secrete 4 to 5 types of enzymes. Such enzymes which have the property to digest carbohydrates and to digest fats. So protein digestion takes place in stomach, and maximum protein digestion, most part of the protein digestion takes place in stomach, and the rest, carbohydrate, fat, that digestion takes place in small intestine. Now after whatever we have eaten, we have digested, the whole thing we cannot digest. Some part will remain undigested. We cannot digest the entire food we eat. What to do with the undigested part? So the undigested part will be transferred to the large intestine. This is the large intestine. There are 3 main parts of large intestine. Colon, this is colon. Then there is rectum, and last one is aperture, anus. Anus is nothing but an aperture. It's the opening through which undigested food materials will be given out. So this is the pathway of the food which we are consuming. So if I summarize the process, first, what is happening? Ingestion taking place, taking the food, then going to stomach, digestion takes place but partial, then it comes down to duodenum, ileum, that is small intestine, where digestion is completed. Now the undigested part will go to large intestine. What to do with the digested part? Only digestion will be done. What will be? It will be of no use. We have to put it to some use. So the digested food is then absorbed. Who will absorb? Blood or lymph. So see, passing of digested food into blood or lymph. So from small intestine, from the walls of small intestine, food is absorbed by blood or lymph. Then comes assimilation. Only absorption will not do. Blood will now carry the food to different cells of the body. Different cells will now assimilate the food, will now utilize the food, will metabolize the food so that energy is released. With that energy, we will perform other activities, so that is assimilation. Some new substances can be produced, new proteins, new fats can be produced. That is assimilation. And egestion. Egestion means whatever was undigested, that will be eliminated. Other name of egestion is defecation. So these are the steps of nutrition: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and digestion. And how the food will travel? What is the pathway? This is the pathway. First buccal cavity, then pharynx, then esophagus, then stomach. From stomach coming down to duodenum, then ileum, jejunum is there. Most part of the digestion is carried out by ileum. Then undigested part will go to colon, but you can see over here I have written jejunum and colon both takes part in absorption, because from the undigested material also something can be reabsorbed, and that is water. If the entire undigested food we give out, we will lose a huge amount of water. The body will become dehydrated. So that is why from colon some amount of water is reabsorbed. So I have written absorption over here. Then the undigested food passes to rectum, and then through anus it is eliminated. So this is the elementary idea of digestive system. So today we have discussed about the digestive system, the various parts of digestive system, the steps of nutrition, and the pathway through which the food is going down. The pathway through which the food goes down. So today we have done up to this much. We will continue with the rest of the chapter in the next video. Thank you everyone.